Princess Rhaenyra, you may now speak for your son, Viserys Velaryon.
If I am to grace this fast with some answer, I will start by reminding the court that nearly 20 years ago in this very...
King Viserys of House Targaryen, the first of his name, King of the Andals, and the Rhaenyra, and the First Men, Lord of the Seven Kingdoms, and Protector of the Realm.
What a great episode. What a great episode that was. Guys, okay, so this is my breakdown, your Filmmaker's breakdown for season 1, episode 8 of House of the Dragon, guys. So, let's talk about it. First of all, can we just acknowledge, I want to acknowledge that in the beginning of the scene, or when the part I played, he doesn't refer to Rhaenyra's son as Prince Viserys, or is it Viserys? He says Princess Rhaenyra and your son, right? That was a little jab there. And I'm going to break down some of Otto Hightower's behavior, and how he undermines Rhaenyra, or specifically how he's setting himself up, and him and his family, how he's setting everybody up to become to take over pretty much. All right, so let's get into it. So first of all, I want to just talk about the episode in general, and how this is actually, to me, one of the most powerful episodes because of the tension. Not a lot happened in the episode. Actually, kind of a bit happened, but the tension in the room is palpable. You could cut it with a knife. And we know that the story is beginning. They're setting the scene, and they're showing us the transition and the boldness of the Hightowers. Now they really believe that they are in power. They believe that they are reigning, and their behavior is quite interesting. So in this video, I'm going to bring about 8-9 points. How many points? 7 points about this episode that really got me interested, really got me going. So the first one I have to talk about is Viserys and his devotion to his daughter Rhaenyra. And we see in this scene such a powerful scene when he saved her yet again. You know, he consistently saves his daughter. He consistently supports her. And I think for me, one of the things about Viserys' character, I think the underlying theme with his character is he's dealing with love versus duty. And that's the imbalance that he's facing. I don't know if I have a moment to do this, to play a scene from a previous, the pilot episode, actually. The pilot episode, and it kind of shows you what King Viserys should have done, like his predecessor did. Let me see if I can play that for you, if you just bear with me. What his predecessor did essentially was his duty. You know, Viserys has divided the realm by wanting, like what everybody has said, by wanting to put his daughter on the throne. You know, and I'm going to get to why Viserys wants to put his daughter on the throne, but let me play this. Okay, yeah. Here we go.
As the first century of the Targaryen dynasty came to a close, the health of the old king, Viserys, was failing. In those days, House Targaryen stood at the height of its strength, with 10 adult dragons under its yoke. No power in the world could stand against it. King Viserys reigned over nearly 60 years of peace and prosperity, But tragedy had claimed both his sons, leaving his succession in doubt. So, in the year 101, the old king called a great council to choose an heir. Over 1,000 lords made the journey to Harrenhal. 14 succession claims were heard, but only 2 were truly considered. Princess Rhaenys Targaryen, the king's eldest descendant, and her younger cousin, Prince Viserys Targaryen, the king's eldest male descendant.
It is declared by all lords paramount and lords vassal of the Seven Kingdoms that Prince Viserys Targaryen be made Prince of Dragonstone.
Rhaenys, a woman, would not inherit the Iron Throne. The lords instead chose Viserys, my father. Jaehaerys called the Great Council to prevent a war being fought over his succession. For he knew the cold truth. The only thing that could tear down the House of the Dragon was itself.
Oh, what a great line there. The only thing that could tear down the House of the Dragon was itself. A few things in that scene that I thought were quite interesting. The first one was the fact that Corlys Velaryon, you could see that he married Rhaenys expecting to become king consort. We can see why he just wouldn't let go of this idea of taking what he believes it's deserved. But it seems like the story has shown us that, he seems to be dead, so he might survive, but he seems to be dead. So it seems like that story potentially is ended. But another important line there was the only thing that could tear down the House of the Dragon was itself. And that's exactly what we see playing out in this season. But, okay, let me get to the point, right? Why I played that video. It is Viserys. What does Viserys think? Who does he think he is? That he can come and he's not even supposed to be on the throne, right? But he only got there by being the first male heir. Not even the son of the king, right? Viserys is not even the son of the king. He's the nephew of the king. Took it over his daughter as the first male. So what gives him the audacity to think that he can choose his daughter to become queen? What gives him that audacity? And there are two things that I would think about. The first thing is the fact that it's okay to be an outlier. It's okay to be a game changer, right? That's how we create evolution. So that's one way, right? That's how we evolve as humanity, right? We become outliers. We do something that's different. We change generations of history. Fair enough. But really, I think the inner conflict with him is love versus duty. And I think when it really comes down to it, it's about him believing that Rhaenyra's lineage is that of the prince who was promised, because he truly did believe that Rhaenyra is the one that is going to, or at least he believes that she's going to unite the realm. It's her lineage. And when it comes down to it, what Viserys understands is that Rhaenyra is 100% Targaryen, as close to it as we know. But when it comes to his other children with Alicent, they are not 100% Targaryen, they're 50% Targaryen. And I think that is the root of his belief that his daughter, it's her lineage, because he believes that it has to be a Targaryen to pass on. And if Alicent then becomes, or her children come in, they're only 50% Targaryen. Sure, they're married and they marry themselves. Her son Aegon is married to his sister, but that's still 50% Targaryen blood, and it waters down through generations. And so the reason why they intermarry, the Targaryen specifically, is to make sure the Targaryen blood is pure. That was Aegon's excuse. And he did not want to water down the Targaryen lineage. And he believes that that his daughter Rhaenyra and her line are pure Targaryens. And that's what I think is why he thinks this is duty. But I think beyond that, because I feel like, I said this in another video, everyone is doing their best with their level of consciousness. I think he's also making other excuses in his mind, that the fact that he loves his wife and he believes that he betrayed his wife. He's always trying to make amends for that, give reparations for that. And we see him time and time again coming through for his daughter Rhaenyra. An interesting scene, she asks him, let me put the scene where Rhaenyra asks him, because you think about it, he's breaking history. He's breaking generations of history. And even Rhaenyra is like, what's going on here? Why do I don't even know if I want it. Let me play the scene with Rhaenyra.
You told me it was our duty to hold the realm united against a common foe. By naming me heir, you divided the realm. I thought I wanted it. The burden is a heavy one.
So she acknowledges the burden is a heavy one. All right, so what happens there? He calls her his only child. I think that also supports the idea to him that she's the only true Targaryen, right? Obviously, she's not his only child, but he has this devotion to him. So he's conflicted between love and duty and almost conflating the two, and that's kind of where he struggles. Conflating the two between love and duty. He believes that she's his only child. Obviously, she's not his only child, but she's the only true 100% Targaryen and Daemon in the realm. And her and Daemon having children, even though they don't necessarily stand yet to become the heirs, that is more powerful than what's her name's lineage, Alicent's lineage. But very interesting scene how Rhaenyra confronts him and even asks him, why do you break tradition? Everybody says it's even Vaemond says this to him when he confronts him. You break hundreds of years of tradition. You break hundreds of years of tradition. All right, let me go on. Another thing that was interesting, and if I go back to that scene, another thing that was super interesting that I noted before Daemon killed is this dynamic between Daemon and his brother. And it was quite interesting. It just shows you how important the king sees the Targaryen heritage and family. That is his number one priority. That is just like as everyone, their duty is to ensure and instill the survival of their family. His duty, he believes the Targaryens are superior. And we see it in this scene here. If you recall earlier in the scene, he's struggling to get up the throne and one of his guards helps him, but he stops him. And then Daemon comes to help him and he lets him, right? He lets him, not only that brotherly love, but also the fact that he is a true Targaryen. And only Targaryens deserve to sit on the throne and have proximity to the throne. So I think that was symbolic as well. And it also is an interesting scene because of the fact that the last time they were in this, or one of the times that we saw them in his throne room many years ago, Daemon actually told him that he's weak. He's a weak king. And here he is, actually physically weak. And it's Daemon that is ushering him and helping him sit on the throne. So that was also an interesting thing. And I think when it comes to Daemon, he has a mixture of feelings of pity. I think that's one of them. And he's almost like this resolved jealousy because he was the heir. And now he knows that he's the furthest thing from the heir. The king has 2 sons, other children, and he has Rhaenyra, who he has named his heir. And it's like now, the last time they were together, he was bitter, their relationship was strained. But I think now Daemon has purpose. And his purpose is now by the heir's side, Rhaenyra. She gave him this sense of purpose. And because of that, you know, when you think about typically the siblings of kings, they always have no purpose. They're always purposeless, and that's their inner conflict, and that's why they're always wilding out. Whether it's even in the royal family, if you watch The Crown, you see that in the royal family, the queen's sister, or even like he played Prince Philip in The Crown. You know, there's this level of how would I describe it? Yeah, just purposelessness. And that fuels resentment. But in his case, he now has a new, renewed, restored purpose. And that is not only to be by the side of Rhaenyra and make him the prince consort, but to protect her and to protect their family lineage. And we see this play out in this scene, in him helping his brother up the throne. This is him protecting the family lineage. And the two of them have this very powerful moment, unspoken bond, and they both understand that that is what it is. And he places the throne, very intimate moment, placing the crown on the king. It just kind of shows how much proximity Daemon truly has to the seat of power. And it's almost like he's accepted it finally, that it is not for him to wear. Like they say, heavy is the head that wears the crown or something. Heavy is the I don't know, something like that. But he at the end of the day, he's still been able to, at a later stage in his life, be able to find his true purpose, and that is by Rhaenyra's side. And he proves him a fruitful and very integral and important partner to Rhaenyra. Even in this scene, the way Vaemond disrespects her, and immediately he slices his head off. Rhaenyra said it best. What will she do without him? If he was not in that room, Vaemond could have just gotten away with that and nothing would have happened. That shows you the importance of Daemon's character. And this is that importance, that heaviness gives Daemon purpose, knowing that his role in this is extremely integral. Let me see if I have any notes on this scene and any more notes, and I'll move on to the next one. All right, so the next point I wanted to make is Vaemond. Oh my God, this man is so funny. Vaemond and the way that he was murdered. Skip a little bit. Let me even find it. Vaemond and how he was murdered. Imagine Vaemond. Something about Vaemond. One thing I will say about Vaemond is he has this persistence and this hunger for power. This pride is present in the Velaryon household. Him and his brother, they're bold. him and his brother, they speak their mind. Him and his brother, Collis, they have always spoken up at times when they disagree. We remember in the small council meeting, Collis would always speak up against the king, and his brother, his younger brother, was also raised to be in a position of power, which is actually quite interesting, because when it comes to the other dynamics, we could see that younger brothers are typically not this bold, but he was always ready for this seat of power. And it kind of shows you how his family, the Valerians, really paid attention to home training. Unlike some other people that I will mention, they really paid attention to these things. But one thing about his character, that's why his death was so satisfying, is he's always the one that stokes mutiny. He's always the one that plants these seeds, just always speaks against, well, he speaks his mind, but he says things that everybody else doesn't want to say, right? And speaks against the power. He's always saying things, jabbing, like these small little sly jabs, always just trying to go against the position of power. And that's why King Viserys reminds him, you're only a second son of Driftmark. Why are you always speaking up against people that are above your rank? It's like he doesn't know his place. And that's why that scene was so interesting and so satisfying, because we finally got to see somebody, because the whole season, everybody's always threatening him. Everyone's always giving him these looks. Daemon laughing when he was talking in the funeral in the last episode, how Daemon was laughing, because he's always had a thing with Daemon. He and Daemon don't even really get along. Remember them in the battle in episode 3, I believe, and the way that they just don't really get along. But more specifically, in this moment, Daemon finally got his what he's always wanted. Well, I wouldn't say he even cared that much to kill him, but he's just ready. Ready to put you in your place. And finally, we just got to see somebody put him in his place. He's always speaking out. His brother obviously is not going to kill him when he speaks out against his brother, but his brother does warn him. Collis warns him, don't stoke mutiny, when they were in the battle in in episode 3. Or when he was saying all those things in the funeral, everybody was just looking at him like, and finally he spoke out a line and he got what he deserved. Another thing as a second son is he hasn't really been put in the position where he has as much proximity to the king and to speak up in front of the king. So it's like, he's almost like naive in a way, because he normally gets away with speaking his mind and everybody always just warns him. Nobody actually does anything. And finally, he got what he deserved. All right, so that's number 2. Then the third one is, I think, one of the most important things, and it's about Rhaenyra's ascension to the throne, and how we're seeing very quickly the Hightowers take over that position. Oh, before I even get to that, in the first point, did I talk about his complete and utter devotion? I had a video where I broke that down, his complete and utter devotion to his daughter. The fact that she came to him at night, and he stopped taking milk of the puppy, put himself through that much pain so he could be there for his daughter in her moment of need. If that isn't love, just utter love. Look at him just in so much pain, so much pain, but he wants to be there for his daughter. This is how much he loves her, and this is how much he's almost conflated love and duty, because he believes that it is his duty to support his daughter. Now let's get back to this ascension to the throne, talking about Otto Hightower, who okay, so in the last episode I talked about how Otto Hightower served the king loyally, and he was punished for being honest and true to the king. Now Otto Hightower has come back with a mission, and his mission is to put Aegon on the throne in his rightful place, right? That's Otto Hightower's mission. And he started his scheming, his little scheming and sly moves here and there just to make sure. We saw that at first when he referred to Rhaenyra as Princess Rhaenyra in the throne room, but did not refer to her son as Prince. Was it just Carries or one of Viserys? That's one way. Or the fact that when she arrived, nobody came to meet her. If we remember, whenever a king arrives, you're meant to meet them, right? Remember, and the way that we know the rules of this, remember Game of Thrones, Robert Baratheon arrived, and remember how everybody came out to meet him. This is the heir to the throne. Somebody's supposed to come out and meet her. But remember, I don't even think Alicent was aware of this, but Otto Hightower says in that meeting, good, she got, in the High Council meeting, good, she got the greeting that fits her station. So he's already treating her like she's not the heir. He's already putting those systems in place. I think the most important thing to me is, this is how the king kind of failed in my view. If the king is sick, it should be his heir that is ruling, not his hand. So Rhaenyra actually messed up on her own by going to Dragonstone, because Rhaenyra should just say, well, let me come and be queen now, right? Because whoever holds power keeps power. That's one thing that we've seen in Game of Thrones. Whoever stays in King's Landing, holds power, keeps power. We saw that with Cersei. How did Cersei even get on the throne? She just stepped on it and sat on that throne. Remember Cersei even telling Jaime Lannister, or who is it that was telling Jaime Lannister, you are so close to the throne. You killed the Mad King. All you had to do was sit on the throne. That's all you had to do, but you didn't because you're a servant. Right? And that's just whoever holds power keeps power. So Rhaenyra's big mistake was that in her father's sickness, she should have had him place her on that seat of power instantly. She's old enough to rule. There is no reason for Otto Hightower to be ruling in the king's name. So this is where she messed up for herself. But I'm going to get to why it was actually important for her to leave at the time she left. But I think right now, when she came back, she should have stayed and she should have sat on the throne. Well, actually, let me get to that now. So the reason why Rhaenyra left, and it's kind of obvious, is, especially at the time she left, it was important for her to leave so that she could raise her boys to be strong, confident men. And we can see, I know there's Jacaerys and there's, Joffrey is the youngest one. There's Jacaerys. I think Jacaerys is the older one. Man, I can't remember their names. But anyway, the older one, her older son. We can see him, right? He's a confident boy. He's intelligent. He's devoted to. He was truly raised as a king. That confidence he would not have had if he stayed in King's Landing, because he would have his cousins, and everybody else poking fun at him all his life, calling him a bastard, doing all these things. She already saw that in him when he was younger, where people already started calling him a bastard, and she knew that would steal his confidence. And the most important thing as a king, as a man, is to have confidence. And she wanted to make sure she fostered that confidence. We see it even in the scene when they are in, where are they? On the courtyard, and his younger brother doesn't have confidence. His younger brother needs to be reassured, and he tells his younger brother, it doesn't matter what they think. Ultimately, it doesn't matter what they think. A king does not care about the opinions of sheep. We see that in the courtyard, and we know that he is the confident older brother, and he is sort of helping his younger brother navigate that. But he wouldn't have all this confidence. We saw him when he was younger. He started losing that confidence. And when she saw that, she instantly said, no. We have to go to Dragonstone. And now he's this young, determined, very intelligent boy who's, he's determined to learn his mother tongue. Valerian. He's dutiful. He understands that a king must know the whatever he said about the king must know, should know a king should honor the traditions of his forebearers. This is a young man that's studious. This is a young man that's confident. This is a young man that's fit to be king, and that's what she has raised. You know, that's who she has raised. And that actually leads me to my next point, which is the way that these kids were raised, right? So he was really raised to be an intelligent young man. And I think it's in complete contrast with Alicent and her sons, who are wayward. But before I even get into that, let me see if there's anything else I missed. Okay, no. All right. So Rhaenyra raises her son to be smart and intelligent. Now, here's the thing with Alicent. Alicent has raised some terrible children. This one is, raping girls. He's raping girls here. We can see in the preview for the next episode that he has a bastard. It looks like he has a bastard son. So this one is like, a drunkard. He's doing all these things, and the other one is just sort of this menacing evil person that wants to kill, so it's like she hasn't done a great job raising her kids. And I had this very interesting conversation in my comment section. Someone was talking about how Rhaenyra is so entitled. Who does she think she is? And the person was comparing Rhaenyra to Otto Hightower and Alicent. But we have to remember that it's not going to be Otto Hightower or Alicent that's going to sit on the throne. It's going to be this piece of trash that she calls a son. And he already seems to have children himself. Because, in the other scene, in this next scene where he's lying in bed naked, she's always catching him doing crazy, stupid stuff. She even tells him he's no son of mine. But in the next scene where he's naked and she's screaming at him here, let's remember she says, your wife, aren't you a disgrace to treat your wife like this? Which has confirmed that he's already married his sister. Then the sister comes in and says, oh, where is the maid, the kids? So it seems like they already have children, right? Him and his sister already have children. So it doesn't look like Aemon is even in line anymore. He's way further down in line to become king. But regardless of that, both of them are just wayward. Both of them are just not unfit. They're unfit to rule. So one, and then the other girl is just this weirdo that's like awkward, who predicts the future. She's, but she's just weird. So it's like Alicent has done a terrible, the other one that's weird, whatever, that's not her fault. She has special gifts and she's awkward. But the other ones, they're just not fit to rule. And it's almost as though Alicent has spent all her time, and I said this before, spent all her time focused on Rhaenyra, focused on getting the throne, that she hasn't even done her duty. Yes, she did her duty about taking care of the king. Must have been exhausting doing all of that. But it's not like she doesn't have help, right? But she hasn't done her duty in raising strong, smart, intelligent, bold men. Her children are wayward. Her children are way unfit to rule, especially way unfit than Rhaenyra and her lineage. So it just kind of makes it, I don't know. It's kind of ridiculous that she would even think that her children deserve the throne. And she says to him, you're no son of mine. And remember, the last time I heard we remember someone saying that was in Game of Thrones, when Tywin Lannister said that to Tyrion, when he was about to kill him. This is something that Tywin had always felt about Tyrion. So we just think about her disowning him based on his moral compass. But it's like, where's the accountability? Why didn't you raise him to be a king? If you really thought that he deserved to be a king, your father told you to raise him to be a king, and this is what you did. And if you think that this was raising him to be a king, this also proves the point that Alicent and the Hightowers have no position, absolutely no reason to even want to be on the throne, simply because they don't even know what it takes to be king. They don't even understand what it takes to navigate that process. They're unqualified. And Rhaenyra has always been qualified as a Targaryen because she understands what true power is. All the Targaryens, because it's in their lineage, it's in their history, they understand what true power is. I thought a very interesting scene I wanted to bring up also was at the end, well, not before the death. We see here, right? So in the next episode, they kind of tease that what's his name has bastard children. And in here, we have Viserys, who's kind of playing a role like Viserys, because she's the master of whispers, it seems. She has the maid of, she has the Alicent's maid who was in that room, who knew about the girl that was raped, giving her whispers. So it seems as though, and she's obviously still being paid and to gather information by Daemon. So it seems as though Rhaenyra is going to catch wind that not only does Aegon rape women and children and is unfit to be a king, she's also going to get information that he has bastards, which they revealed for the next episode in the teaser, that he has bastards. And why is this an important thing? And why is it important for Alicent when she tells the girl that was raped not to tell anybody, make sure she does not tell anybody? Why was that important for her to say that? It was important because her only justification to the realm that Rhaenyra is not worthy to be queen is that Rhaenyra has bastard sons. Now, if her children, her son and heir, Aegon, has bastard children, well, there's no basis for her argument. So she's doing everything in her power to sweep away and hide away all of Aegon's bastards. And it seems like, in the next episode, we saw the teaser, and it sees there's a little boy, blonde hair, and he's sitting in that cell. So she's doing everything in her power to hide Aegon's bastard children, right? So that when it comes down to it, because that is the basis of her argument that Rhaenyra is unworthy. And it's so funny how God works, but I guess the writers of the show have worked in the hypocrisy, the fact that she is so high and mighty, yet she didn't do her duty by raising an intelligent, structured man that has self-control. She raised wayward sons who were even worse than the Rhaenyra that she was pointing a finger at. So I think that's a really interesting dynamic there. Another person I wanted to talk about is Rhaenys, and I think Rhaenys is just a great character, and just thinking about her ability to survive, her survival skills, because this is somebody that should have been the queen, but the realm rejected her. And I think the dynamic between her and Rhaenyra is interesting, because in a way Rhaenys she's about survival, so she's not going to push too hard on anything. But with Rhaenyra, it's like, I'm supposed to be queen, what makes you think that you deserve this throne just because your dad has told you you're entitled to it? Your lineage isn't even the true lineage, right? But I have accepted that the realm is never going to accept a woman. And if I'm going to die and fight for anyone to have that throne, it's going to be me. So why should I support you in your claim to the throne when, in addition to that, I also believe that you're responsible for the death of both of my children? You and your husband are responsible for the deaths of both of my children, my only children. So if anything, she has so many feelings about Rhaenyra. Not only, obviously, the children, her losing her children was the worst part of it, and the fact that she has to look at her in the face. But I think the main part of it was, and the other part is that I don't even believe in your purpose, because if I were to support your purpose, I would support my claim to the throne first. I would go back in history and make myself queen. But I didn't get that. So why should I support you? When it comes down to it, Rhaenys is just going to support herself, and she made that very clear. I just want to also add that Rhaenyra also didn't need her permission. This is where it shows that Rhaenyra is dutiful, respectful. She really didn't need her permission, Rhaenys' permission, to enlist Daemon's children as to marry her children. Right, these are Daemon's children, even though it's Rhaenys' grandchildren, but these are Daemon's children. She doesn't need her permission for that, but because she wants peace and she wants the support of Westeros's greatest fleet, because she wants that support. Well, she then goes and says, well, because at the end of the day, Rhaenys is the commander of that fleet at the moment. And so because she wants that support, she then goes and says, please, can I get that support? Or she wanted her blessing before they made the union, but she didn't need her permission when it comes down to it. Number 6 was the dinner scene. I thought that was such a great scene. Such a great scene. And it kind of shows, I think the scene was one of the best parts of the scene is that it starts off, let me just get to it. It starts off with Rhaenyra and Alicent sitting apart from each other. Look at them in this scene. They're both sitting apart from each other. They're not speaking at all. They're not communicating with each other at all. And I thought it was very interesting how at the end of the scene, they were holding hands, in the same position actually, but standing in front of the table at the end of the scene. But they are then now holding hands, which kind of shows a version of unity. This unity was for Viserys' death, or Viserys, just to appease Viserys. But I think genuinely in this moment, they see the humanity in each other, and their friendship, I won't say it was restored or repaired, but they were able to accept each other for who they were, or remember, this is the person that I grew up with as a child. This was my best friend as a child. And in that moment, it's like they get to experience the former friendship that they used to have. It's a very powerful moment. See them holding hands right in front of the table in the same position that they were sitting in before. Otto Hightower there. So very interesting how that worked in that scene. But this dinner was all about unity. It was all about how the family comes together for Viserys. I feel like this was his dying wish, just to see his family get along one more time, just to see them. We've seen all the tension, we've seen all the fighting, the dynamics, and Viserys, like I said, his purpose or his underlying theme is duty versus love. And the irony is that duty versus love, the way that he interpreted it, actually caused the end of his or the division of his family. But all he ever wanted was unity. And it's clear that the realm obviously is only united because he's alive, even down to his family. They can sit in that room together, dine together, because he is alive. And then I think, in this scene is so interesting because, they come in this scene, there's tension in the room, nobody's talking. King Viserys, gets up and tells them, unite, please. He's begging. This is his dying wish. I hope that when I die, you guys will be united. Because when you think about it, Daenerys wasn't this polygamous man that was marrying multiple women and his families are fighting. No, this was a man that was in love with his wife. His wife died. And in order to fulfill his duty, he had to continue to have offspring. He had to continue that was his duty, to have as many offspring as possible to ensure that the Targaryens remain in power. But if he was going to do what his predecessor did, he would have passed this throne to Aegon to avoid any fights. But he did not believe that, because what I mentioned before, because Rhaenyra is 100% Targaryen, unlike Aegon. And so this is why. But I think he should have done a better job of communicating that. Or his views on it, instead of just being this, I'm king and it is law, because you cannot enforce law when you're dead. So I think he should have done a better job at that. But it's always in these situations, these men, they never really can do that. So he's there pleading for his family to get along. And who is the first person that gets up? Of course, it's Rhaenyra. Because when it comes down to it, you could say everything you want to say about Rhaenyra, but she was raised to be a queen. She is fit for the role. She's dutiful. She's the bigger person. And this is why she gets up and she sort of supports the unity of the family as the heir, as the one that's going to lead the family, the future of the family. She gets up first and she makes amends. She thanks Alicent with gratitude. an apology, because at the end of the day, you can say all you want to say about Alicent. She stood by that man's side. She took care of him all of his life. She was the best wife that she could be. No matter what you will say, even though he doesn't love her as much, he still has shown that he loves all of them, his whole family. But when it comes down to it, Alicent has done a good job taking care of the king. Yes, sure, she has her own selfish agenda, but she's only human. Everybody has their own selfish agendas. So when it comes down to it, Rhaenyra, extended the olive branch first, as a queen would, because she's the bigger person. And Alicent accepted it because of her maturity, allowed her to see, well, this was the person that was my best friend. And I think that's kind of her inner conflict. But when it comes down to it, I think that she's accepted that for her survival, it is better that her son sits on the throne. So that's that. And then the next part that was interesting is, who was the next person to get up? It was Rhaenyra's heir, because again, he was raised to be an heir. But it's so funny, before he even gets up, let's address the fact that it was such a powerful moment how they all accepted each other and there was peace. Then Alicent's wayward son Aegon gets up and starts tormenting. It's like they ignored everything that was done and gets up and starts tormenting Viserys. But Viserys gets up and composes himself like a king does. Composes himself, even though he's pissed with the stupid things that his cousin is saying, gets up, composes himself. And it just kind of shows you the conflict between the Hightowers, who don't understand what it really means to yield power and to sit on the throne, and the Targaryens, who have done this historically. Alicent and Otto were unable to raise their children or their offspring for the throne, and Rhaenyra, who has always sat in the throne, Rhaenyra and Daemon, who understand what power is, have always raised their children, their offspring, to do just that, take the seat of power. I also want to address the generational beef, and how it starts with Otto Hightower and Daemon. That's where the beef starts. And then Rhaenyra as well. Then it goes to Rhaenyra and Alicent. And then it goes to Viserys and Aegon with their little, I don't think the thing about Aegon is, I don't think that he really cares. We see him amused whenever there's a fight. I don't think he really cares about the beef. But he's just there, having a good time. I don't think he really cares. Apart from, obviously he wants to survive. He doesn't want to die. But I don't think he's malevolent like his brother seems to be. Then we have the second sons and their beef as well. Because remember, it is the second son, Rhaenyra's second son, that took Aemon's eye, right? Took Aemon's eye. So there's this generational beef that's going on between them. And it's a very interesting dynamic how, yes, sure, the adults may get along because they're mature, but the children are always going to be petty. And the beef with them is too deep right now for you guys to make amends. Because if you were going to make amends, you would have united them as children. Now they're young adults and some are teenagers. There's no way they're going to get along at this stage. Then we have the next scene where they bring the pig and Rhaenyra's second son starts laughing. And he can't help himself because they used to make fun of him. And, at the end of the day, let's remember that Aemon lost his eye due to this boy. So whatever the case is, Aemon is going to be resentful. He's not I lost my eye. Sure, I have a dragon, but I lost my eye. And you're still laughing at me for the pig? Well, then let me make fun of you for being a bastard. So this is where the moment was, they finally united. I see him laughing. Finally united. He's laughing at the pig. And now it's the time for the second sons to fight with each other. And we know Aemon is a skilled warrior at this point. Not warrior because he hasn't fought any real battles, but he's very skilled in battle. And it's so funny, this scene, tries to call them bastards again. I almost feel like their house word should be "say it," because they always love saying "say it," call me a bastard, right? Those should be their house words. But what is interesting here is, well, Alicent is pissed off again. Alicent has absolutely no control over her sons. They're wayward. They just do whatever they want. And they don't even listen to her at this point. You know, she has absolutely no control. She warns him after they've united. Why are you doing this? And then they get, it's so funny how they go for each of their rivals, right? So that's one thing, or they go for each other. So this shows that the beef is deep, and there's no way that they're even going to stop this beef at this point. It's already been passed on to the children, and this happens the second the king leaves, which is kind of foreshadowing that shows the second the king dies, the fight is set to begin. Let me move on to the next part. It's here where Aemon is obviously not trying to listen to anyone or listen to his mother, but notice how when these guys run, but Daemon says, stop! He stops immediately on command, on Daemon's command. Kind of shows you Daemon's power. And Daemon stands in front of him, and, if you guys read the books or you saw the folklore video that I posted and some other people have posted it, Daemon actually battles Aemon. And this is foreshadowing for their battle that is yet to come. It's going to be an interesting fight to see the duel between the two of them. And then obviously at the end of the scene, Rhaenyra says, when they finally make amends, Rhaenyra says, I will return on Dragonback. I will return on Dragonback. And for me, that is again foreshadowing for the war that's yet to come. Because I think the next time Rhaenyra is going to be in King's Landing is going to be on Dragonback to fight this battle and to kill Alicent. So actually it's ironic that she said that, but even though the last time they're holding hands and they're at peace, the next time it's going to be war, and she's going to be having her dragons kill Alicent or whatever her goals are. But I think that was great foreshadowing for that moment. I will return on Dragonback. And it kind of just shows you how fickle their relationship really is. Even though they started off as friends, when it comes to survival and taking care of your family, you're going to do everything in your power to take care of your family. I want to end by talking about Viserys' last words. And before I do that, I want to go right here and play this scene here.
Song of Ice and Fire, do you believe it to be true?
So she says, a song of ice and fire, do you believe it to be true? And remember, this is him answering her back.
And you wanted to know if I believe it to be true.
So that's him. He thought he was talking to Rhaenyra, not Alicent. She said, a song of ice and fire, do you believe it to be true? Then he said, you wanted to know if I believe it to be true. He even said it exactly how she said it. And so this message was not for Alicent. But also Alicent, first of all, the thing about Alicent is she wanted to find any excuse just to make sure Aegon can get on that throne. And especially any excuse for her moral compass to support Aegon ascending onto that throne, even despite the fact that consistently for the past, 30 years, Viserys has said Rhaenyra is to pass on that throne. Rhaenyra is to be the one, but she wanted to find any excuse to justify in her high and mighty ways that what she's doing is what Viserys wanted. So she has now miscombobulated what he said. Well, obviously she doesn't know why. We know that he has dementia. We know that he doesn't even remember who is there and who isn't there. The last time when Rhaenyra was there, he said, is it Alicent? Who is it? Now he thinks it's Rhaenyra that's here. And so he's talking about the Song of Ice and Fire and saying that Aegon's dream, this is a conversation for Rhaenyra. This is again, if you guys remember in the previous episodes, when he was telling Rhaenyra about A Song in Ice and Fire, he basically told her very clearly that only the heir is to know this. It's a secret between every king passes on to the next heir. And only an heir is to know this. So he didn't even mean to be saying this in front of Alicent. And that's why Alicent has now taken this message, completely misconstrued it, thinking that he's saying that he wants Aegon because of Aegon the Conqueror, historically, who is the one that put the Targaryens on the thrones, took over Westeros, so she's talking about Aegon the Conqueror, Aegon's dream, but she thinks he means Aegon II, her son's dream. And so she's completely misunderstood what he's saying here. But again, like I said, she's looking for any excuse. And this was the excuse that she needed to fight tooth and nail to ensure that her son, especially with her moral compass, right, to ensure that her son sits on the throne. I think the last thing I wanted to point out is the king's death and the way that he dies. And he's just sitting there. Let me play if I can. She says, "I know what to do." So we wait, I think he said his wife's name. Oh my. Let me play that again.
No more.
No, I think he said no more. So we see him here as he's dying in his deathbed. He's reaching out. And to me, it seems as though he's looking at his wife, his first wife, reaching out to her as she takes him to the afterlife. And then his last line was, we see him, it looks like he's in love. This is his wife that he's always wanted to be with. And he says, "My love," that's his last line, "my love." And it's like he's gone back to be with his wife, the woman that he's loved the most in the world. Finally, he gets to end his life and be with her. Anyway, those are my thoughts. It's a great episode. A lot to unpack here. Gone over a lot. Let me know your thoughts. Leave a comment down below. Don't forget to like, follow, subscribe, all the above. Guys, I make new videos every Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Mondays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. But with House of the Dragon, I'm just going to be making episodes back to back. So guys, check it out. Let me know your thoughts. Leave a comment down below. Did you guys enjoy this? And I'll see you next time. Peace and stream.